I've been playing video games ever since I was 3 years old, and as far back as I can remember, I've always had some type of anxiety dealing with them. I actually think the first time I experienced some type of anxiety was during this one mission in the Spider-Man 2 game for the Game Boy Advance. It was a mission where I had to escape this collapsing building, and it was a race against time. Just seeing the floors come down one by one just gave me a pit in my stomach that I've never felt before. Now, as an adult, I realized that feeling was anxiety. And that really got me thinking about the history of the times where I was anxious playing games and why I was even anxious in the first place. Because this still happens to me to this day. Even on board games like when I play chess, I'm literally sweating up a storm. But I didn't become a parent of this issue until a year or two ago. This idea of being anxious about playing video games got brought up when I used to ask my baby sister to play Among Us. She did for a while, but then she stopped, and I asked her about it. She said that she just got too much anxiety to play. And at first I thought, like, who gets anxious playing video games, let alone Among Us? Ironic, right? When I first realized I was nervous playing certain games was when I used to play Free For All on Black Ops 1. I remember watching my brother play and wanted to do the same when it was my turn. But when it was my turn to play, I always got this feeling only when I play Free For All. I would feel a little bit better when he watched me play, but we're going to get into that later. I said I used to get nervous because I had no one on my team. Being 10 years old on my first ever shooter game, I can see why. Having everyone in the lobby to only fend for themselves really just got me nervous. The weird thing about it is that I never felt this way with party games. I actually enjoyed the mess out of Sticks and Stones and Gun Game on Black Ops 2 and played it a decent bit. So I really don't know what that was about, but eventually I did grow out of my fear for Free For All. So why exactly would I be anxious playing video games? After all, weren't they supposed to be enjoyable? The definition of anxious is experiencing unease, worry, or nervousness, typically about an imminent event or something with uncertain outcomes. I do want to say that I get two different types of anxiety when playing different types of games. The first one, and the one I understand the most, is probably the most healthy anxiety from playing competitive games. This is also the most self-inflicted. I don't know about anyone else, but I would consider myself extremely competitive, and I want to win all my games. Statistically speaking, this will never happen because eventually I will lose. But I always put that pressure on myself because I'm way too invested in the game. I literally stress myself out over unknown outcomes. When I'm playing chess or when I used to play competitive Overwatch or Destiny, I would literally be sweating a puddle. But it's low-key fun because I guess it gives me a rush if you win and dread when you lose. Except for that losing part. This is also the same thing with watching sports. Having your team in a close, important game will give you enough anxiety to send you to the hospital. This is why I'm also not a big fan of battle royale games and tactical shooter games, because you have one life and the risk to reward is not a good payout to me. I only experience dread in those modes. I also got too scared to be bold because there are no second chances. When I used to play Fortnite solo, I was one of those people who hid in the bush, too nervous to do anything because I hyped myself up and now I'm playing like booty. That's another thing, I get in my head way too much. But my next type are the zombie horde mode games. I remember trying to play The Last of Us and I was too scared to play after that scene in the gym where you first encounter a bloater. Like, I literally had to close app and I never touched that game again. I guess now would be a good time to mention that I don't like zombie games, so that was just not for me. I don't do horror, I don't do zombies, so it just was not a good recipe. I also played Sunset Overdrive, which is similar, but I was able to finish that game. I had different tools at my disposal and the game had mobility, so I didn't get overwhelmed at all. And even though the game I'm about to mention is not a zombie game, but it is like a horde-ish game, and that's Destiny. Growing up and even now, I could not play the PvE content by myself. At the start of every season when you have to do a mission to unlock the artifact, I would literally have to watch a YouTube video so I could know what to expect. The missions in D2 where you had to unlock your new subclasses in the Taken King, I had to have my cousin do that for me. because it just overwhelmed me so much, and I felt like I didn't have a safe spot to disengage from. Even when I would farm the Lost Sector some week in Destiny 2, I would miss out because I thought some of them were just too hard for me or emotionally overwhelming to do by myself. And even when I did play, I would play it safe. I'm literally shooting the boss all the way in the back of the map. Even though I had multiple lives, I was always playing cautious. And if I ever got into any trouble, I would run towards the beginning of the area. I would even feel anxious playing Super Mario or Mario Galaxy because some of those levels were timed. And if you die, you just lost all your progress. And I think that just took an emotional toll on me, knowing that I would have to get back up the same area over and over. I promise I could play Mario games, but on the Super Mario Brothers for the DS, they had these mini games, and there was this bomb game that I used to play all the time, but that literally almost used to send me to the hospital. Like, I was just so anxious playing that game. Like, it was just so much at once, and you only had one chance to, but being in first place in Mario Kart on lap 3 doesn't send me to the hospital. So Minecraft is also a game that I can't play by myself. I don't know what it is, because the game itself is not particularly hard either, but I can't even handle being in a cave by myself. Shoot, the last time me and my sisters tried exploring, we were getting beat up by baby zombies and overwhelmed by endermen. After that, we were done. Skeleton to the left. It's too much going on. I'm overwhelmed. This is why I just go on my little strip mine. And I just call it a day. Even going into like the Nether Fortress or Woodland Manor has my butt clenched. No reason for a block game to make me feel this way. And now that I'm thinking about it, as I'm writing this script, I think I feel this way because I need to feel safe in order to at least to be control in these scenarios. The last game I played that made me so anxious was Horizon Zero Dawn, and I haven't felt that anxious in so long. My first encounter with the Sawtooth, I was literally just anxious out of my mind. I guess you could say that I just felt so powerless against one of the most powerful machines in the game. Also, that one fight against, I don't know if there was one or two corruptors in the desert. It was like a pit or something. That took me way longer than it should have, because it was just an open area with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and I just got a bow and arrow and some traps. At least that's how I feel in my head. And on top of that, the corruptor was like one of the most mobile machines in the game, and it had a lot of bit of health. Maybe it's just a skill issue on my part, but the encounter that made me the most anxious was when we were climbing up that mountain, and there were these two machines, I forget their names, but they could turn invisible. I was like, I literally could not fight them, so I didn't. Please don't laugh at me when I say this, but I had to run away. I'm surprised I even got away, but I just straight booked it. But then it didn't help when I was immediately attacked by the bird machine. But since it was one-on-one, it wasn't that too bad. It was actually kind of fun though. I felt like I could handle it. I felt like I was in control. It was just me and him. So I just want to say these 3 things that I want to address regarding this. At the time, my sister and I just wanted to be in each other's presence. So whenever I was playing my game, this would just be a great opportunity for us to hang out, and she would just chill on the couch. And whenever she would sit on the couch, she wouldn't even be watching me. She'd be playing Sims. But just having her in the same room as me, I wouldn't feel as anxious. There were a couple of encounters that I played with her, and they were actually like fun. One of the ones was against the big machine in that arena. Like, it was a guy who like kidnapped me, and then he made me fight. But in reality, it should be different. I should be more nervous that somebody is watching me play. But having her there, I guess, just comforted me, and it felt like she was watching my back, even though she was not playing with me at all. The second thing is that all open world games do not make me feel anxious. I was playing God of War Ragnarok and had a blast, platinum the game and everything. I don't know if having Atreus there helped me, but even throughout all the encounters and the mini bosses, I never even felt one bit of anxious. There was just only a couple of encounters and bosses that I didn't like. However, I did feel anxious sometimes playing as Atreus, just a little bit. I guess it's because he didn't have as big as a kit that Kratos had. Another game that I played was Deathloop, which is kind of like a stealth action game, and you're basically sneaking around for 30 hours trying to get out of this loop. There's traps, there's guards, there's turrets, and literally everybody is looking for you. But you do eventually have abilities to help you out. There are so many times where you would have an entire area of the map looking for you, and the AI wasn't stupid either, so they would actually find you. But I never felt anxious. It gave me more of that rush I was talking about earlier. And this leads me to my third point. It's not consistent at all. At first, I thought I didn't like alien monster games like Horizon Zero Dawn, but then I could play Helldivers 2 solo, no problem. But I'm like, oh, maybe I need a gun, but then I struggled to play Destiny 2. It just doesn't make sense to me at all, when I could play Red Dead Redemption and have a whole gang after me and be just fine, but I can't have more than 3 stars in GTA without panicking. Keep in mind, this is the same company. Then I have to worry about future games as well. I'm trying to play Fallout 3 after I play Red Dead Redemption 2, but then I had to wonder, will I be too anxious to play this series? The same thing with the Soulsborne game. I so badly want to play Dark Souls 3, but I don't know if I could handle such an unforgiving environment like that. And then to research this topic, I was looking through different forums and posts, but I hardly saw anyone mentioning gaming anxiety in this context. Most of them were stemming from multiplayer games, but mine is coming from single player games. I only saw like one Reddit post, and it was about Borderlands, them playing Borderlands, and I honestly felt the same way. I just got way too nervous to play Borderlands. I could not finish the game and kind of wasn't that invested in the story either, but it was just like too much for me to handle. We got people running at me, these crazy bosses. I'm like, oh no. I wouldn't say that I'm an anxious person either, just in general, or maybe I am and this is just my true self being shown. But if anyone knows the science behind this or feels the same way, please let me know in the comments. Thank you if you made it this far. Thank you for watching. Peace and chicken grease.